I'll give you the thumbs up. Good to go.
All right, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this Friday's Tech Talk. Today we have Matthew Leo from Bootup to talk about how to land your first tech job. So thank you for being here, Matthew, and take it away.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you both for having me. Happy to be here to speak to all of you. So yeah, real quick, my name is Matt. I'm the Chief of Staff at Bootup. That just means that I help with all the maintaining all the employer partnerships that we have, as well as the bootcamp relationships. And so Bootup's main goal is to help bootcamp graduates find their first jobs in tech. So with that, this will kind of be a two-part talk, I guess. The first part, right, is the most important part, which is just figuring out how to write a good resume, right, when you apply for jobs. And then the second part is how to utilize our platform that we've built for bootcamp graduates like yourselves to, apply for jobs and roles that were, created for bootcamp graduates specifically. So with that, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Just start off with, just kick off with how to build a good resume to apply for tech roles. And so, so let me start off with this. And I will pause after every, section and just, I guess, open up for any questions you guys might have, or, maybe you guys can just type it through the chat, but, I'm not too familiar with Google Meet, so I might not be able to see it, but so I'll get started with this. And so, a lot of this might be overlapping with what your career services teams have already been telling you, but also I'm hoping that a lot of this is, new information for you as well. But yeah, so, obviously we talk with a lot of recruiters in the tech space, right? And so, this is essentially really all feedback from them. And so right here, we have like a good example resume actually from one of our bootcamp graduates that I like to use. And so obviously it's a little blank in some areas just because I redacted some information. But real basics, right? Like up here is just your name, your contact info, as well as your city and state. And so we always recommend people to not, put your full address in, right? Just because we've heard from a lot of recruiters that that's just unnecessary. Just put your city and general state, and you should be good to go. So a lot of bootcamp graduates, right, do not have a lot of relevant work experience, or maybe don't even have a college degree, right? And so this section right here is your About Me section. And so one of the questions I get the most from bootcamp graduates is, how do I make myself stand apart, right? And so the About Me section is really the way to do it. And so, excuse me. So this right here is just a good way for someone with not so strong professional experience to, give a little bit more color about themselves, right? So this is, a great example right here, right? It's just, who you are, like, what are your skills? What are you good at? And maybe at the very end, just like, I'm eager to contribute this at your organization, contribute to your mission, something that's really focused on that company that you're looking to apply to. So yeah, that's pretty much the About Me section. A couple of pointers there is, for the most part, try not to be too personal with it, right? So there's a fine line to walk there. So on one side, when you are speaking, when a recruiter sees your resume, right, you don't know what sort of biases they might have, right? For example, you don't want to put something really personal like, hi, I'm a father of 3, whatnot, right? Because the recruiter might read this and be like, okay, so you're a father of 3, you don't have very much experience with this. So, maybe you'll be distracted when you're working for us, right? And, just because of something that small like that, some previous bias that they might have, they might just toss out your resume. So it's better to just keep it professional. But also there are some other ways, right? So for example, if you have any career gaps, right? One I guess, personal thing that you could put in there is something like, I had the opportunity to care for a loved one who needed 24-hour support last year. I was able to spend my free time learning how to code while coordinating, the household budget, managing appointments, things like that, right? And so that can work in your favor because, it talks about, like you being able to balance a lot of different tasks, learn a completely new skill, and whatnot. So, it's really just up to your best judgment to what to include in that About Me section. And so here, the technical skills section. So I always recommend people include literally every single technical skill application, like anything and everything that you guys learn in your bootcamp and are familiar with. And the reason for that, and I'll get into this a little bit later, is because one of the biggest things when you are applying for a company is bypassing something called a company's like applicant tracking system, right? So the reality of it is, right, like if you're applying for a big tech company, right, they are going to have thousands of applications, right? And so it really is impossible for every like resume to be reviewed. So they have to, narrow down that stack of resumes somehow. And I'll go into that applicant tracking system bit in just a second. So always list your technical skills. And so here, the project section and this experience section can be flip-flopped, right? So if you don't have relevant work experience, that's relevant to the job that you're applying for, I would go ahead and put projects that you worked on ahead of your work experience. So in this case, right, so this candidate didn't have, relevant work experience down here. So she put her projects up here, which is fantastic, right? And so here, just putting the projects that you worked on, right? Obviously linking everything so that when people go to click on the links, they can, see your project, what you contributed, things like that. And also to treat your bullet points as if they were work experience, right? So that's I think my only thing with this resume right here is to make sure that you treat each project like real life work experience, right? So I'm sure your career services team has told you this, but like one of the ways that one of the very basic ways to format each bullet point is to start off with an action verb, right? So for example, like you administered or you like coordinated, a team of 6 developers to help you build out this project, or, something like that. And to be as specific and quantitative as possible, right? So you don't want to put in bullet points that are just very generic, right? Like helped code this project, right? Like that's just not going to get you anywhere. That doesn't tell the recruiter anything about the role that you played in this project. For the most part, that's just going to be, sorry, just saw that comment. Yeah, so right here, these are essentially, right, the action verbs that you can use on your resumes. And it's just really important to have that basic foundation, because if you don't start off your bullet points with past tense verbs, like there's going to be, some kind of bias there, right? When recruiters see, look at all their resumes and all of them start off with like past tense verbs, and then suddenly yours is like, I helped someone do this, right? Or I just something that's not starting with a past tense verb, they will have some bias there and potentially discount your resume just because of that, little formatting. And so you can find this super easily. It's really just, Googling like list of action verbs for resume or something like that, and it's literally the first link there. So yeah, so that's probably my only qualm with this. And to make sure that you, make sure that you list out, all the languages and skills that you practiced or used and whatnot. And so now I'm going to get into the company ATS a little bit, right? So again, that's the company's applicant tracking system. And so you probably actually honestly won't hear this from a recruiter because they want you to think that, right, like they personally review all your resumes. But the thing about it is that it's impossible. So one of the main things when you're catering your resume is to go to the job description that you guys are applying for and making sure to read the entire thing. Like go through the entire thing, pick out any tools, skills, and make sure to include as many of those in your resume as possible. Because that way, when your resume goes through the applicant tracking system, the applicant tracking system is searching for whatever keywords they're looking for, whatever has been preset by that company. And if your resume has those keywords, it'll go through. And if not, it might just get left out. And I know that's extremely unfortunate, but unfortunately, like companies do have to limit the amount of resumes that they get in some way. And so I'm actually going to share a quick example of that. So I believe, okay, so yeah, let me make this a little bit bigger. So this is actually a resume that went viral on Twitter. And so essentially what this engineer did, right, is she kind of showed how to exploit, right, like companies' applicant tracking systems. Like right here, right, she, like, if you click on that link, that's not her like personal page or anything, even though it says Angelina the Dev, it takes you to the Rickroll page, right? Like you can see here, right, in their bullet points, they just used as many buzzwords as possible, like React for AI on blockchain, like that doesn't make sense, right? Larceny AI, like mining Ethereum on company servers, right? That's illegal probably. Like team coffee maker, like, fraternity record for most vodka shots in one night, like extremely unprofessional, but she still got interviews at like Robinhood, like Facebook, things like that, because it just exposed, the company's applicant tracking system it just goes to show that as long as you have those like correct skills and tools in your resume, like that's basically how you can bypass that applicant tracking system and give your resume the highest chance of being viewed. So always reading the entire job description and making sure that all those key tools and skills are in your resume is extremely important. And yeah, finally, one of the biggest errors I see with definitely older candidates as well, right? Just because you have a lot of work experiences, I'll sometimes see like 2-3 page resumes, right, where they're just going through their years of jobs and experience. And quite honestly, like it's great that you have work experience, but if it's not relevant to whatever job you're applying for, like quite honestly, the recruiter is probably not going to read all of your work experiences and bullet points. And so it's really important to just like put yourself in the shoes of the recruiters, right? When I get a resume with a bunch of work experience, right, that is unrelated to, right, the software engineering role that you're applying for, I'm just like, man, like, I don't want to read all this. Like, I've got 1,000 more resumes to look at. And, I just like, I'm not going to read all of it, right? So just put your most, just think about things that, a recruiter would like to see, right? If you don't have technical work experience, you most likely in the past have had like, team building, or like working in a teamwork. That's the word I was looking for. Like teamwork experience, right? Maybe even leading a team, maybe working with others, maybe, being able to work on like juggling multiple projects at once, right? Like those are the important work experiences. Working with anything technical, right? So that's, for that section, right, it's making sure that you cater that work experience as like as similarly to the job description as possible. And then finally, your education should be at the very end, right? Because most likely a lot of bootcamp graduates don't have a college degree or, got a degree in something unrelated to the job that they're applying for. So it's just, quite honestly, it's not important to the recruiter. However, they do want to see that, okay, they do have, a certificate in full stack development or something like that, So they do want to see that, but quite honestly, like your undergraduate degrees and things like that, as if they're not related to tech, like they can be left out if you choose to do so. And then one thing also with older candidates, we generally recommend people to just leave off like what years you went to school. So for example, if you went to Washington State University, right, and you graduated in like 1995, go ahead and leave that off. Just because that is something that, again, like how I was talking about with recruiter bias, they might be like, oh my, like, we don't, want someone who is older, right? And they might just discount your resume just because you left the year graduation year. So yeah, so that's, pretty much it. I know that I went through a lot in a really short time. So I'd love to open it up for questions. And I'll actually start off with Sherry's question. So Sherry asks, like, if you leave out items of work history that isn't relevant, would that create time gaps? So generally, we do recommend that if you don't have a lot of relevant work experience, just put whatever your most recent work experience, whatever it was, and just, put it there and just try to make it as relevant to the job description as possible, if that makes sense. So for example, this person here, right, she was a caregiver from 2017 to present, right? Obviously, so she was, this candidate was like an older candidate, right? So she obviously had work experience from like 2000 to 2017, but she left that off because the recruiter doesn't care about it and it wasn't relevant to the job that she was applying for, and also not very important to the resume. Like, your projects are by far more important than, past, older, non-relevant work experience. So yeah. Yeah, and I guess I'm not sure if you guys just want to unmute if anyone has any questions. But
yeah, what we can do, Matthew, if anyone has a question, go ahead and you can raise your hand, and I can unmute the mic for you, and you can ask your question. Also, if you want to leave any questions in chat, you can definitely do that as well. But I do have a question for you, Matthew. What is your recommendations for LinkedIn with having it set up for finding your first job?
Sorry, could you, what do you mean by setting up the LinkedIn for first job?
Well, just your presentation on LinkedIn and what that should be like similar to your resume, that kind of thing.
Yep, definitely. So your about me, whatever about me you have here can definitely be whatever you put on LinkedIn, right? You can elaborate more on it on LinkedIn, but for the most part, right, like you don't want to be more than 4 or 5 sentences max, right? This should be a super short, concise, quick summary, about you, right? But on LinkedIn, right, the about me section can be bigger and you can elaborate a little bit more. To answer Sherry's question, so yes, so leave out your older work history, and yeah, you can explain any gaps verbally, or like I said, if there's anything specific that you want to state, like you can explain it in a single sentence up here. But yeah, for the most part, you can explain that on the interview if they even ask you about it, right? Because they're going to be more interested in your most recent, like the projects that you worked on, your skill level, things like that, as opposed to why do you not have work experience past 2017 or something.
Great. So let us know if you guys do have questions. Again, if you have any verbal questions, you can press the raise hand button, and then Rick will unmute so you can ask your questions, or you can put it in the chat.
So
It looks
Matthew,
like
are
Jacob.
you, go ahead, Regina.
So Jacob says this has been awesome so far. I'm assuming that since you are talking today to help current graduates from the Tech Academy, a business relationship look from a 10,000 feet view.
Sorry, I'm not exactly understanding the second part of the question, but yes, because I'm here, I'm like definitely, looking to help. Help. Sorry, I'm not sure if you guys can hear that, but that's my laptop fan. It'll turn off in a second, but yeah.
Yeah, we've got the link. We can see it.
Okay. But yeah, so well, I'm talking to you guys today because I want to help you guys out with your resumes, help you guys have the highest success rate of getting a job. And then also, in the second half of this, I'm just going to be going into a little bit about what the Bootup platform itself specifically does. So yeah.
Okay, great. Well, yeah, let us know what Bootup is exactly and what you guys do here. And then if people do have questions, feel free to leave it in the chat, and then we'll get back to you guys. But yeah, tell us a little bit about Bootup.
Yeah, definitely. So what's relevant to you all as graduates, oops, sorry, let me get this back up. What's relevant to, you Bootcamp graduates is, specifically our user portal, right? And so basically what we do is we build relationships with employers who are either specifically looking to hire bootcamp graduates or are open to the idea of hiring bootcamp graduates. And on the second, like that latter part, it's, a company could have several reasons for wanting to hire a bootcamp graduate, right? Whether it be, they just want to, see what your competency is, right? Maybe, have additional entry-level talent, go through their pipeline, things like that. But we build relationships with those companies. And so we want to be able to share those roles with, bootcamp graduates. And so essentially what we've built here is very similar. You can think of it as a LinkedIn that's specifically for bootcamp graduates. So, only bootcamp graduates can sign up, and all of the roles are specifically for bootcamp graduates. They're all truly entry-level roles. You won't see anything that's listed as entry-level, but actually, 2+ years of experience, right? And I'm sure you guys are very familiar with seeing that on LinkedIn. So real quick, I'm just going to take you through the sign-up process. And, again, just as a disclaimer, we are a startup. We've only been around for a year and, a few months. So our platform is not fully, well, I shouldn't say it's not fully built out, but, there are still some things that are a little clunky, but, it serves its purpose. So when you go to our website, joinbootup.com, you can, click the sign up button up here. And, obviously first name, last name. And one thing that I do want to state is that we will send, how you sign up for the profile, we will send over, your profile, your resume, and things like that based on what you type here, right? So if you type in like all lowercase, right, that's how it's going to be sent to the company. And again, that's, not very professional. And so make sure to, type it how you would want it to be viewed when you sign up. So I'm not going to take you through the whole sign up process, but I did want to get to this section right here. So the way our platform works, right, we work with a bunch of different types of boot camps. We work with design boot camps, cybersecurity boot camps, tech sales boot camps, right? And we help with all those roles. And so obviously we don't want you to be sorting through, you know, all those roles that aren't relevant to you. So one of the most important things right here in the skills section is to, you know, select software engineering as one of your skill tags. And this will make sure that all the software engineering roles are that are relevant to you are shown at the top of your jobs list. You know, the rest of these sign up options are just, you know, resume, what boot camp you went to, you know, things like that. So I won't go through the rest of that, but I did want to specifically say something about this software engineering skill. So now I'll go ahead and log into my own student portal. And so when you log in, you'll be immediately taken to our jobs page, right? And so here is where we share all of the roles that we have from our employer partners who are looking for, you know, more bootcamp graduates, right? So, for example, you know, let's just look through this real quick. Reynolds and Reynolds, right? So again, I stated that companies are either looking to specifically hire bootcamp graduates or are open to the idea of hiring bootcamp graduates. So you'll notice that a lot of the job descriptions, right, say like, you know, we'll say bachelor's degree or graduation from a technical school or bootcamp, right? Bootcamp is a plus, but not required, right? So you'll see a lot of, you know, job descriptions that are specifically looking for bootcamp graduates. So the next part is the My Job section. And so I wanted to go through this just because this is very important for, you know, keeping track of, you know, your job statuses and things like that. And it also actually helps your career services team because they're able to keep track of whatever you mark your job statuses as, right? So when you apply for a job on Bootup, it'll come to the My Job section and it'll automatically be filed as applied, right? And so under applied, you can go ahead and, you know, click interview, click tech screening, you know, like if you get an offer, you can select that. Or, you know, the unfortunate reality of a lot of jobs is, you know, recruiters might not get back to you for a few months, right? And you won't ever hear about it. And so you can mark it as rejected or stale just to, you know, get it out of your, you know, your My Jobs inbox, right? And so doing this will actually help keep track of it on the career services side as well, so that your career services team can see, increase font. Hopefully this helps. Sorry about that. Yeah. I didn't see that until just now.
Looks good now.
Okay, perfect. But yeah, so, you know, just keeping track of those jobs, and also, you know, you can, when you like click accepted offer, right, you can let your career services team know that you've got a job somewhere, right? So, you know, fantastic. And then the other thing I wanted to go over is you can actually add jobs that you didn't apply through on Bootup as well. So for example, let's just say you found a job on LinkedIn for Wells Fargo, right? So you can put in Wells Fargo, what day you applied, the, you know, the company or the application website, right? As well as, you know, quick job description, just to help you, you know, keep track of it, but as well as show, you know, your career services team that you have been active in your job search and show what jobs you've applied to. And then finally, you know, like our platform is for the most part super straightforward. And just to really quickly answer Sean's question. So on the career services side, we don't charge the boot camps and we don't charge the job seeker. So it's completely free for you guys to create a profile and, you know, apply for jobs. We only charge the employers on that end. And one thing I also wanted to mention was that when you apply through jobs on our website, you will be redirected to the company website to finish your job application, but that's only because they need to collect, you know, data for themselves, right? Like they need to know like veteran status, like, you know, and whatnot. So you will still have to complete the job application on their site, but the reason why we have this process is so that once a job application period has ended or closed, we're able to keep track of who's applied to what jobs, and we can send your profiles and resumes over to, whoever we're working with at that company. And then the other thing that I wanted to go over was your profile section, right? So here, if you do have any additional, education or boot camps, like you can add that here as well. Anything that you may not have been able to add in, or you forgot to add, in the registration process. But also you can add your projects that you've worked on, showcase those, right, on your profile as well. And so one thing I will say is, for the most part, larger tech companies won't look at, any of this, right? They're just going to look at your job application and your resume. But we also work with a lot of startups and smaller companies, right, who are looking for entry-level, software engineers. And so they will, check out, your skills, your interests, a personal video and your projects as well, right? And so this personal video is, just a short 90-second video, just to give yourself, just to give yourself an opportunity to, just talk a little bit more about yourself to, the employers. And, if it helps, your resume stand out and you help you get a job, like that's fantastic. But, if people just browse over it, that's fine too. It only takes 90 seconds to upload one. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Our platform's super short and simple. It's just a way to, help share opportunities with you all and redirect you, to the company. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much. That's awesome. It's great to have this platform to help everyone land their tech jobs. But we do have some questions in the chat. Let's see. So let's start here. Do you have any more advice on writing a solid opening paragraph, the one that you put on top of the resume?
Yeah. So, quite honestly, it's really just like speaking more to yourself, right? Like it's really for you to just give a little bit more color than just, the skills and work experience. I'm trying to think of how else I can elaborate on that, but like the only really thing that I would, want to say is in that about me section, if you really want to cater your resume for, every company that you apply to, and potentially increase your chances of getting your resume viewed, make sure to say why you want to join that company and like how you can contribute to their mission or something like that, right? So obviously for smaller tech companies, that's a lot easier. But if you're applying for a, big, tech firm, you might have to dig a little deeper for that. But yeah, that's pretty much all I really got from the top of my head. Yeah, apologize, I can't, elaborate a little bit more on that. But again, it should only really be 4 to 5 sentences max.
No, great. Thank you so much. And then Jacob, let's see. What advice do you have for someone who has been actively searching for a job for 9 months with little success? I have applied for 972 jobs and have had a total of 9 interviews, no job offers. I've tried handing resumes in person, contacting multiple people in the companies as an attempt to network and get my name noticed. I have networked and asked for referrals from friends and family. I'm just not having a ton of success. I would say 0 success because I have no job. So do you have any advice for Jacob?
Yeah, definitely. And quite honestly, that is the unfortunate reality of it is that, your success rate of getting an interview really is like 1 to 2% of, how many jobs you apply for, right? So it's not easy, right? And, yeah. And so one thing I will say is the company applicant tracking system piece is actually really important, right? Because that will allow your resume to get more views and get more interviews. And obviously, the more interviews you have, the more job offers you'll have. One thing that I will say about the interviews is, practice more with people, right? Just because I've done mock interviews with, several bootcamp, graduates, and I will say, even those that think that they're well practiced, they can drone on some, unrelated topic, or like, give a little bit too more detail, there's a lot in the interview that you can clean up. And I'm not sure if that really helps, but it is a numbers game, right? Like, the more jobs you apply to, making sure that you list the skills in your job description, on your resume, will help you get more views on your resume, and hopefully get more interviews. Getting a job is tough, right? Like, that's why there are career services teams to help you with that. But really all I would say is, keep at it, right? Like, I know it's a tough, long process, but yeah.
Yes, it's definitely a hard process, especially with your first job.
Yep.
Rick, did you have something to say?
Not at the moment, but great presentation, Matthew.
Yeah, thank you.
Great idea with the Bootup.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. Actually, one thing that I wanted to add to Jacob's, one thing that I wanted to add to Jacob's, or the answer to Jacob is, oh man, I lost my train of thought. Make sure you continue to code, right? Like, make sure you keep your skills, right? Whether it be just working on like a small project, or maybe even attending a hackathon or something, right? A hackathon is actually a great way to network, and also might help you with getting a job, right? Networking is tough, and a hackathon is honestly a pretty good way to do it. And if not, at least you got like an additional project that you can continue working on, as well as showcasing it on your resume. So you want to make sure that you're still coding every day and keeping up with those skills.
Great, thank you. And this kind of goes on to the point we were just saying about projects. What projects do you recommend we work on post-grad to demonstrate competency and perhaps even stand out?
Yeah, definitely. So one thing I will say is, like, think of, right, what kind of company do you want to work for, right? So if it's a big tech company, like let's just say Facebook/Meta, right? Maybe you're really passionate about like social media as well. Maybe one of the projects you can work on is something related to social media, right? If you make a project about water sources in Africa, right? Finding water sources in Africa, that company if they're a social media company, they're not going to care about that project too much, However, that's not to say, if you're really proud of that project, not to put it on, because if you did a good job with showcasing your skills in that project, definitely include that. But I would say that, try to think of what your dream company is, and try to make your, next projects, or, if you have any projects, as similar to, that company as possible, right? So if it's like you want to go work for a social impact startup, do like some productivity project or something like that, right? But make sure you showcase like your best, projects in your resume.
Great. Another question from Andrew. If my entire career has been in architecture and I'm applying for a UX designer job, how would you structure my resume? The only UX related work I have are case studies and self-made projects. I have zero professional UX design experience, but I do have a Google online course certificate for the case studies, or the study project. Struggling to figure out what to do to include and what to exclude or boil down.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for that question. And so, yeah, so first thing that comes to mind, I'm not sure if you're including that Google Online course certificate. Make sure you include that on your resume, right? Just because that is important, right? Just like additional, education and whatnot. In terms of your, like it's great actually that your career is related to design in a way, right? And so make sure to, include in your bullet points, include experience that is as related to what a UX designer would do, right? Maybe like, it's tough to say just because I don't know what kind of architecture work experience you have, but maybe like I worked in a team and I was gonna say something generic like did design things, but just try to make it as relevant to the job that you're applying for, right? Like they don't care that you, if like let's say for example you helped with payroll or something, like they don't care about that, right? They just want something design related. I probably sounded like a broken record at this point, but I hope that helped a little bit.
Well, thank you. And then another question. So this is about Bootup. Do you have any numbers or statistics so far regarding your platform that are wins you can share? Like for example, help 500 people land a job so far, or like had 10,000 or 1,000 open job applications, etc.
Yeah, definitely. So our platform was launched in July of 2021. So again, about a year and a few months. And since July 2021, we've actually helped 1,400 bootcamp graduates land their first jobs in tech through our employer partners. So one of the big ones, right, was, and I'm not sure if you all have heard about the JP Morgan opportunity, but they, they hire like 100 to 200 bootcamp graduates specifically, like for each of their, early career software engineering cohorts, right? And so we helped, I want to say like 127 Bootup candidates got a job at JP Morgan applying for that role. So yeah, we've definitely had great success. And, again, it's like we only usually have, 80 or so jobs on our platform, right? And like if you only apply for jobs on Bootup, like I'm not saying like you're guaranteed to get a job, right? Because Bootup, our platform, should be like an addition to whatever your job search is, right? Like if you sign up for Bootup, you can't just only apply for jobs on Bootup. You need to apply for jobs on Bootup, but also do your own job search because there's so many companies out there that we don't work with, right? So you still need to apply on jobs for LinkedIn, apply for jobs on LinkedIn, apply for jobs on Indeed, wherever you find them, right? So yeah. And also those statistics are actually listed on our website. If you just scroll down a little bit at joinbootup.com.
Got it. Thank you. And then Matt has a question. I see a lot of people writing in third person within the about section of their LinkedIn profile. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I believe that is actually what's recommended. Quite honestly, that is actually a good question. I don't think there's really a right or wrong answer, and maybe defer to your career services team to see what they say. But for the most part, I've seen it both ways, right? Like Matt is great at this, or I am great at this. I think that's just very nuanced on the LinkedIn profile. So I don't think it really matters too much.
Got it. And then we have a question from Sherry. What's an example of a productivity project?
Yeah, so for example, I believe one of the projects, so when I was referring to productivity project, right? So I was speaking about applying for like a social impact startup. So a productivity project might just be like, how to like a project that schedules out your day, right? That helps you schedule or manage your schedule or something like that, right? Like, it was really just an example off the top of my head. So it's not like something that you should go do right now. It was just an example that was related. Basically, just do a project that's related to what kind of job you want.
Great. And I think that was the last question.
Awesome.
Any other questions you guys have? Let me know. And then would your LinkedIn be a good place for people to connect with you if they do have questions about your platform?
Yeah, definitely. So I will also say, and that's a good final remark. So I'm dropping my email here as well. So, like I said before, we are a startup, right? We're always, our team is always developing out the platform, always looking for, more suggestions, or, all of you are essentially like bug testers for us, right? Like, just a few weeks ago, there was like this tiny random bug where someone had problems uploading their resume on Firefox, right? Like, who would have thought about that? So if you guys have like any questions, any suggestions for us, like any features you would like to see in the future, feel free to just shoot those over to Matt and join Bootup. I will say our product roadmap is a bit long, but we always put those in our product roadmap. So anything like that, feel free to reach out to my email directly or through my LinkedIn. My LinkedIn is, if you just search up Matthew Liu Bootup, like I'm sure I'm one of the first ones to come up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can just share it here as well.
Oh, perfect.
No, great. Well, thank you so much. And then also to let everyone know, we are recording this. So if you do want to go and watch this back, we'll be posting it to our YouTube channel under the Tech Talk playlist, and you can find that here. And then next week, we'll also have another Tech Talk. It's actually one of our graduates. Mallory will be joining us to talk about her experience landing a tech job and basically transitioning into tech. Here is next week's Tech Talk if you'd like to RSVP. But either way, thank you all for joining. Thank you so much, Matthew. You guys are doing great, and I wish you all the luck. And I hope everyone has a great weekend.
Yeah, thanks, Matthew. Great presentation. I think that's going to be a great resource for our students. So we will be definitely checking that out more. But thanks for the presentation. It was great.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you all for having me. Loved doing this, and enjoy your Fridays and weekends.
Thank you, Matthew.
Yeah, have a great weekend, Matthew. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, of course. Have a good one.